I'm super happy. I'm Antonia from After 8 Books. And I'm really glad to be talking to Cecilia Pavon tonight and Estelle Hoy. They're going to be in conversation about this beautiful new publication published by Semiotext. And it's called Little Joy. And those are selected writings by Cecilia, who is a poet, a writer, and a translator, which is very much in the book, by the way, the idea of translation. And you, Cecilia, are speaking with us, connected from Buenos Aires, where you've been living and writing, and you've been also the co-founder, managing a very beautiful, special art venue, which was also a publication house. Sorry, I'm just clicking on the people that come into the room. That was called Belleza y Felicidad, a name that is very special to me and I really love. So Cecilia is in Buenos Aires right now, and Estelle, she is drinking from a mug with a picture of her kid on it.
It's pretty good though, you have to admit. And
is this a Semiotext publication in front of you?
Hatred of capitalism.
Hatred of capitalism and a big, wow.
Yeah.
You should sell those.
I know, we've actually been talking about that. The Moose folk and I were talking about that, $40 a pop, we reckon.
That's a fantastic, fantastic.
See how it goes.
Estelle Hoy, based in Berlin, is the author of this amazing book that we, After 8 Books, yours truly, published last year at the beginning of the end of the world. It's called Pisti 80 Rue de Belleville. It's a great publication, which I recommend, of course, because I've been working on it. And I think those two go very well together, and you too as well. So I'm looking forward to hear a little bit about Little Joy, and let's hope this can bring us a little bit of joy tonight. We heard from Cecilia that the atmosphere is not so great in Buenos Aires right now, but I hope that this conversation can cheer us up a little bit. Both microphones are working, girls?
I think they're both working, yes. Can you hear us?
Cecilia as well?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay.
I think it all works fine. So yeah, I will let you two Estelle into this conversation. See you in a bit.
Thank you so much. See you in a bit. Thank you so much, After 8, for having us, and for Cecilia Pavon coming tonight. Yes, there it is, Little Joy. Chris Krause sent me a copy of Little Joy quite a while ago, thinking that I might like it, and I didn't like it. I completely fell in love with it, which is why I'm here tonight. It is so funny and so smart and poignant. But I think the thing that I like about it the most is it's incredibly unpretentious, and that, as we know, is a really rare thing in the contemporary art world, and to a lesser extent, I suppose, in the literary world. So I thought I'd read a little bit about Cecilia. So poet, writer, and translator Cecilia Pavon emerged in the late 1990s as one of the most prolific and central figures of the young Argentine literary scene, the so-called generation of the 90s. Artists and writers whose aesthetics and politics were an earnest response to the disastrous impact of American exported neoliberal policies and the resulting economic crisis of 2001. Their publications were really fragile. They were Xeroxed and painted on cardboard. I think they were even stitched on handkerchiefs, but their cultural impact was indelible. A co-founder of Buenos Aires independent art space and publishing press Belleza y Felicidad, where an entire generation of soon-to-be famous Argentine artists show their work for the first time. Pavon pioneered the use of unpoetic and intimate context. Her verses often lifted from text messages, hopefully not ours, Antonia, or chat rooms, her tone often impish yet brutally sincere. Fellow Argentine poet Marina, now Cecilia, I never know how to say her last name. How do I say it? Marina Juzkuk.
Shuksuk.
Shuksuk.
Yes.
Too many Z's.
I think she's from Serbia or something like that. Yes.
Right. Marina Cook once wrote, Pavon's writing is filled with minor illuminations and conjectures. Her syntax is a syntax of commas, buts, and disjunctives, thoughts and impressions organized into a current that flows, branches off, and stands still. In 2015, Pavon's first volume of collected poems, A Hotel with My Name, was published in English. Contemporary writers in the States, Australasia, and Europe discovered a deep affinity with her work. Pavon's protagonists, Ariana Rhymes noted, are absolute women, guileless dreamers, saints in sneakers, on sidewalks, in jail, in Zara, in nightclubs, in bed. Translated by Pavon's own poetic protege, Jacob Steinberg, who I think is here tonight. So amazing translation. Yeah, we should have got him in. Little Joy collects the best of Pavon's short stories written between 1999 and 2020. I loved this book so much that I recently published a fictocriticism, a story in Moose magazine inspired by the work. The work was called I've Been Told I'm So in Bed for their spring edition. I'll just read the excerpt. Leaning on a pole like the counterfeit go-go girl I was, I took out my Cecilia Pavon book to dog-ear all the things I over-identified with. Argentines rubbing pesos together who steal Fulton Cinco pel peso. Standing factory workers with calves for days, making food parcels for all the neighborhood abuelas. Over 35s getting construction site wolf whistles and sending an excited group text. Earth-flavored characters trying to like their lives. If Henry David Thoreau built his castle in the air, Cecilia Pavon built hers with prefabs on Japanese fault lines or some other geomagnetic anomaly. Castles for people who speak once or twice a year. It checks out. Nobody gives a shit about shy radicality from Portinos women authors though, but I didn't know who to tell. So I bought 2 copies despite being broke, but you know, consumer power or whatever. Cecilia, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know that you're opening with my very favorite story, so I'll leave it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Estelle, for your text. And also, I really recommend this piece in Moose magazine. I read it once again yesterday. I can't stop laughing when I read to your story. That happens also in Berlin, and is about stealing some beauty product, like my story that I wrote many years ago. Now I don't do this anymore. This is when I was very young. Okay, sorry for my accent. I hope you understand me. If something that is not clear, please tell me, because yes, okay. And thank you, Jacob, for the translation. Actually, I'm reading Jacob Steinberg, who is here, words, actually. So this is called A Bottle of Vichy Makeup Remover That I Stole from a Poet in Berlin. While taking a bath one Sunday afternoon, I spot the pink bottle, still about 3/4 full. A bottle of Vichy Makeup Remover that I stole from a poet in Berlin. I've had it for exactly 2 years now, when I brought it back from Germany in my suitcase. It's so beautiful to fly and bring back things from other continents, especially Europe, where most things seem to always be the highest quality. In truth, it's not a makeup remover, it's eau moussante nettoyante, which translates literally into something more like cleansing or purifying thing for your skin. And the person I stole it from wasn't a poet, but rather the organizer of a poetry festival I was invited to. I don't really remember what he did for a living. I think he was an economist or a lawyer. We talked about his job when he was driving me from the airport to his apartment in Charlottenburg. He was in charge of the festival's finances. Also, he dressed pretty conservatively. He was always in a shirt and jacket, always black or dark blue. He wasn't even a little gay, but he had a lot of brand name cosmetics in his bathroom, including that small pink bottle I took. The poor guy. I wonder if he even noticed it was missing, or if my theft got lost in the haze of overlooked things. The haze of trivial things. All right, let's remind ourselves that a pink bottle of makeup remover is, by definition, something trivial, but each time I look at it, I remember that German fall morning when I was frantically searching his house for something to steal as a way of calming my rage. Out of revenge, you could say. And it's strange, because even though I recall with precision the bizarre, delirious moment when, after deciding to take vengeance through theft and to steal from a European, aka somebody rich, which made my action not less vile but even kind of heroic, I opened drawers, closets, and cabinets, guided by a malign frenzy. I can't remember exactly what sparked my indignation. I know that on the night before the reading, we had stuck around in his living room talking with some friend of his after getting back from a dinner they hosted in a neighborhood that used to be part of West Berlin in some sort of 19th century French-style mini castle, a villa, they called it, whose garden they had evidently downsized, as it was now just a small square of grass with some willow or similar looking tree between two boring high rises. During the dinner, I realized that the young poets of Berlin, or better put, that group of young poets from Berlin, the ones who had organized and were taking part in the festival, was quite conservative, at least culturally. The way the girl who was, or at least called herself, a poet dressed was conservative. She was also on the organizing committee, and I later found out she was my host's sister and used to live in the apartment where I was staying, which actually belonged to their parents, who now lived in some southern province of Germany. She wore all black velvet clothes, a knee-length skirt, and a blazer, the combination of which came off as extremely conservative to me. It was the combined effect of the cut of the clothes and the material. Maybe velvet alone isn't so conservative, but a blazer can't even be part of a progressive outfit. Furthermore, that night, rock, hip hop, and pop never came up. We only spoke of classical music. Well, in truth, the festival, whose name I've already forgotten, was meant to bring together contemporary classical music and poetry. Thus, half the people at this dinner wouldn't stop speaking about instruments and strange, unique, exclusive, breathtaking encounters that had taken place in the English countryside or on some seaside rocky cliff in Scotland. Events that indelibly changed your life. I was supposed to read over Piazzolla's The Four Seasons of Buenos Aires, a bandoneon player from Argentina who has been living in Switzerland since 2002. Since 2002, after the economic crisis, Will played the piece. He seemed to be a rather respected figure. The organizer, his sister, and others close to the organizing committee called him Maestro. Furthermore, all the poets there seemed to really understand contemporary classical music, something that was almost completely foreign to me. And now that I think of it, was that not the source of my resentment, not belonging to the elegant world of contemporary classical music, or really just the world music in general, not having experienced that feeling of a force that transforms everything in a way your life no longer belongs to you and becomes part of the beauty manifested by an instrument that makes the air itself vibrate? I don't know. After dinner, At the villa, Gustav, as my victim was called, offered to take me back to his, that is my apartment, in his car. A friend of his who spoke Spanish with a Spaniard accent came with us. When we got back to his place, we all sat in his cold living room. In spite of his pretension over having found aesthetic beauty in classical music, Gustav's apartment, I must say, was so bland in terms of decor. It was as if nobody had ever lived in the house, or the objects within it weren't objects at all, but rather photo clippings of the boxes. Those very objects would come packaged in at some store like IKEA or Home Center. Not to mention the apartment was in one of those complexes of cookie-cutter towers built in the late 19th, the ones you find all over the world without any individuality or local flavor. There we took up different topics of conversation over a bottle of white wine that I think was left over from the dinner, and Gustav brought back from the villa. I remember the breadth of topics we discussed being quite expansive, though I can hardly recall any of them now, for I can't remember more than a thing or two of what was said. For instance, at one point my host asserted with a hand motion, which I couldn't decipher as a sign of concern or just neutral gesture in the course of stating a fact, that 70% of Afghanistan's population is under 13 years old. I think he was trying to imply that within a few decades, the rest of the world would quickly surpass Europe in terms of population. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think how we got on that topic. Conversations are always mysterious, and sometimes with people from different cultures, I'm not even sure if they are conversations or performances. Later on, I was the one who said it, also spoke about how German television, or really just television in general, is stupid. I was referencing a show I had seen that afternoon during some free time before heading to the bandoneon player's rehearsal. On it, people looked at houses and apartments they were considering renting or buying. I'm not sure if I specifically said German television, because I'm not totally confident that that's what I said, though it's pretty likely, or what. But now, with my gaze fixed on the little pink bottle of Eau Saint Nettoyant, I'm reconsidering the sequence of events. It seems like this may have been the breaking point after which Gustav stopped treating me well and started to treat me poorly. Maybe it was because he thought it was in poor taste for me to criticize his country, even I was a guest in the country whose visit was paid for with public and private funds from the most prosperous country in the European Union, the one that decides the fate of the euro. Maybe Germans just don't like it when anybody criticizes Germany, just as nobody likes when people criticize their own country. But at that point, the night took a nosedive. Gustav's friend asked me what I had been writing lately, and I told him that I was thinking of doing something with a thing I heard some say outside my son's preschool, one of those things moms say while we wait for our children on a narrow Buenos Aires sidewalk. A novel or something, maybe an experimental book of the things middle-class mothers say, worrying about their children, the fight between them, the constant references to status, and family life. Things like, next month we are going to Disney, or Delphi is taking piano lessons, or Martin just got vaccinated and such doctor's office. After explaining my idea a bit with my clumsy foreigner's German, really a mix of German and English, an indignant Gustav said from the kitchen, "Who cares?" He said it in English, I think, for that's a more universal way of saying it. And maybe for that reason, because he said it in English, with all the weight of the universe that his question held, when asked in that language, it hurt even more. It wasn't so much a question of as an affirmation of his dislike that was meant to say, who even cares about your poetry? Who cares about your life? Who cares that you have a son? He said it while looking away, lowering his gaze. He didn't even have the courage to look me in my eyes or maintain eye contact for all of 3 seconds. I tried defending myself, pretending like his comment hadn't hurt me at all. I tried answering him with indifference and insincere cordiality. I said, what matters in art is not the what, but the how. Not the what, but the how. Nicht der was, aber der wie. But I've already forgotten what else he told me or what I said back to him after that, or what his friend added, if he even intervened. I went to sleep, and when I woke up next day, Gustav wasn't there anymore. He had left me a half-hearted goodbye note on the kitchen table. My plane was leaving that day, Sunday, at 2 p.m. and I needed to be at a friend's house by 11 so she could take me to the airport. It was 9, and I needed to pack and take a cab to Evas. I made myself coffee with his capsule coffee machine and then furiously opened every drawer in his house, thinking of what I could steal from him. Written like that, it sounds terrible, and it is, but something drove me to do it. And when I threw the Vichy makeup remover into my suitcase, I felt like I was doing a good thing. Was I so upset because somebody had questioned something that I thought was a brilliant idea? To be honest, I don't know what the difference between ideas that are brilliant and ideas that aren't, nor do I know how to transform anger into anything else. If stealing can accomplish it, or if it takes something else. I am aware that one of the most difficult things in life is to control our anger. And when I realized that at the grown age of 38, I did something like this, I wonder if I'll ever be a calm person, if I will ever change. It's already been 2 years since that trip. Sorry, I lost the...
And it's up to, and I never wrote that.
It's already been 2 years since that trip. Now, it's the last paragraph. It's already been 2 years since that trip, and I never wrote that book about mothers' voices and stories. My son finished preschool, and now he's in elementary school. He's learned how to read, multiply, and swim. And mom talk no longer seems interesting to me from a literary perspective. Truthfully, I've hardly written anything in the past 2 years other than this story about Gustav that I'm writing now. Maybe Gustav was right, and art must be something grandiose like a Schubert concert or on a rocky cliff, not just some semi-ironic and grammatical narrative about the trivialities of life. That was the last time I was in Europe. It was too long. I hope you understood it. Sorry.
Not too long.
I read really bad, but well, thank you for listening.
It's beautiful. I find this work, I couldn't laugh because I was worried it would pick up me and then transpose back onto me, but I find this so funny, particularly the German bits. Obviously, it's the Germans, what is it? Maybe Germans just don't like it when anyone criticizes Germany. I've got it like underlined in my book. But I loved it so much, Cecilia. Thank you. I think the thing that I noticed about Little Joy maybe more in its entirety, is that so much of it pivots on the misdistribution of wealth and very much the socio-political situation in Buenos Aires in the 90s. And I was wondering if you could maybe paint a bit of a picture about the economic climate at that time, and then how that went to birth Belleza y Felicidad.
Yes, well, here in Argentina, in 2001, we had like a big crisis. Argentina stopped paying the external debt. It was like kind of the first globalization crisis. What happened afterwards in Greece and in many other countries, this happened in Argentina in 2001. I think the crisis that globalization would bring later were very clear then, because the 90s was a decade of reforms in the social state in Argentina, that we had a very strong welfare state like in Germany or France, and people here is still very resistant to those neoliberal reforms, but the 90s were very extreme reform, and many people without a job, a lot of new problems. So this was very like the first globalization neoliberal crisis we had, that we are still in, I think, in the whole world. But in Argentina or in the third world is more clear, you know, the contrast. So of course it was the money, because the banks, this was very extreme. I think that's the first time that happened in Argentina. You couldn't take your money out of the bank. It was crazy. Wow. For the first time. And back then, the credit card or the electronic money was not so normal. Not so many people used credit cards in 2001. Maybe in Europe either. Now we are so used to electronic money. So you could pay with card, but you couldn't take your money out of the bank. So it was really, really almost psychotic situation. People going to a bank and knocking the glass of the windows of the bank. It was really, really a chaos. So that was very present and I was 26, 27. I was starting my adult life. I was starting to having to find a job, so it was very I don't know, it has marked all my generation, that moment of not being able to take out your money from the bank.
Yeah, I mean, I even read somewhere that there was something like 3 bank robberies in Buenos Aires a day. I don't know if that's even accurate, but I remember reading somewhere that there were, I couldn't even believe that. But I mean, so how did then Belleza y Felicidad come to be? Because this is such a tumultuous time, and then you kind of birth something so beautiful with not just the artistic community, but like the local community. I know there were lots of different kinds of demographics there. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Belleza y Felicidad was we opened it in 99. I mean, the whole decade of the 90s was this decade of liberal reforms and opening to the globalization idea. And at the end of the 90s, the economic situation was really bad. And I think it was like I had some money in the bank, Fernanda too, something like $2,000 each, something like that. Because we had a strange economic plan that 1 peso was $1. This was a formula that they found to stop inflation in whole South America. For example, in Ecuador, they still have that, like a dollar, well, whatever. In the 90s, the president had this idea that it's a economic recipe to stop inflation, well. So all the money we had, I mean, in this sense of crisis of like, well, okay, we don't know what is going to happen, so let's spend everything we have. I mean, also this crisis was making people like see the life in a different point of view. That's what I remember, like not caring about the saving or tomorrow or accumulating, or was very, and also that we were very young. And when you are young, you do that things like. So we put all our money in renting this space that was old pharmacy, because also many places had closed and were empty rooms, locals, and it was cheap because of the crisis. And we said, okay, let's do it for a couple of months to see what happens, and more like to have fun with friends. And well, suddenly it grew more and more, and there was something that people needed in the city to have a space like that, that where people could go and show their work and meet and do. Yes, it was a social space more than anything, and run by two girls that we were very young. We were 25, 26, and two artists who were poets and painters, two women, because it was 20 years ago. It wasn't so common that two women run a gallery. Back then it was more everything. It was more like the power had men in culture in Argentina more. So they didn't really take us seriously.
Okay. But it's such I mean, from what I've read about it, it's such an amazing and beautiful space and very inclusive. And I'm not sure if this is accurate, but there was, I think, the first Mardi Gras in Buenos Aires. And that was when you wrote the poems on the handkerchiefs for when everyone was walking past in the parade.
That was the first queer, queer parade.
Yes.
In Argentina, it was in 99 or the second, I don't know. And we had this queer literature anthology, also like the first Argentinian queer anthology, or I think it was interesting because it was painting and poetry together, or painting or visual art and poetry, and also something that is I always forget, but this was very important, that there was no art market in Argentina till then. After the crisis, the art market started to grow. And I think this place was only possible because of that, because the galleries didn't sell work. The artists were still bohemian. I know that sounds really prehistoric now that artists make so much money, but in the 90s was the last decade where artists really they were poor. I mean, visual artists now it's a visual artist. You think they sell work, at least they have the pretension.
Yeah.
But in 90s art was really bohemian, and I think that is what made that people really didn't care about making a career or selling, or it was more about like living the present. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because I remember you telling me a story a while ago about a friend of yours who had an understanding of what it was like for you in Buenos Aires at the time. And then you had this really weird opportunity to go and live like the 1% in London for a period of time. And then I think you said shortly thereafter you went to East Berlin, Friedrichshain, no doubt. And I was just wondering how those kind of disparate experiences were for you and how they're interwoven in the text, because that's quite a different world than the one that you'd been experiencing.
Yes, it's very, now that I think it was really strange. No, everything, my relationship with Europe started when I was 17 years old, that there was this exchange programs where you go to live with a family in another country. I don't know, it was very, very used. The middle class did that a lot in Argentina in the 80s when I was a teenager. So my parents wanted me to go to USA to learn English because my brother had done this exchange program that was actually a cheap way of going abroad, because it was like you lived with a family and then you received a person in your house. Well, and I was rebellious. I said, I don't want to go to USA. I want to go to Europe. And okay, they let me. Okay, because everything had to do with learn English, you know. But okay, go to Europe. Okay, and then the only place left was Belgium. And I'm so lucky I went to Belgium because it's such a exotic country. And I went to live with a Belgian family for 1 year in 1990 in a very small town, 5,000 people. Crazy. It was like so boring. But then there at school, I made a really good friend called Eva. And then I didn't see her anymore. And in 2000, she reappeared in my life, and she had married a millionaire from
Wow, I'm very jealous.
a millionaire with own airplane. That level of millionaire with airplane. So she told me, I invite you to London. No, it's really so funny. She said, I saw in the news that Argentina is very bad, is in a big crisis, and I invite you to my house in London. I send you the ticket. She called me on the phone.
Wow, okay.
So, and I say, okay, I'll go. Why not? I mean, and then everybody here was like, yes, go, stay there. Because here in Argentina, we have this strange relationship with Europe. Like, if you go to Europe, I don't know, it's like you've saved yourself from living in a horrible country. It's very complex relationship with our colonial past, whatever, I don't know. So everybody encourages you, like, yes, go, try to stay there, because here everything was a chaos. So I went, also influenced by all my friends and family.
Yeah.
It's so cruel. It's really so cruel. Now I think they tell you go away just because they are afraid of the crisis in their own country. But well, anyway, I went, and it was a disaster because Effie, was like, you are here only for my money. I don't know. And I was like, yes, I came here because of my family. No, no, she was like, she was like, I had to do everything she wanted all the time. Like, let's go there. Okay, let's go there. And I was like, okay, I have my independence. And she was, no, you are here only for my money. So I left, and I went to a friend's house in Berlin. That I had a friend. And there I stayed 6 months in Berlin, yes.
I mean, I see so much of this in your work, these different themes and stuff. And I think even, yeah, there's a few stories that really come to mind. I know you were going to read a particular work, but the work that kind of springs to mind is the Dear Johanna work. Would you be able to read from that, or would you prefer to read from the other one?
No, I'll read that one, yes, a short one, because I think I don't want to bore people.
You could definitely not do that. It's
this one is
my favorite.
This one is very old. It's very old. Okay.
But this is so relevant. I feel like you could have written this yesterday. Like some of the other ones, I remember you saying, I think there was a conversation that you had in LA, and you were kind of saying that some of them felt really dated. But this one, I feel like I could have written this afternoon. Well, actually, you could have written this afternoon. This is why I like it so much. Go to
Okay,
town.
I'll read it. Dear Johanna, I won't be able to create that work of art entailing 320 pounds of raw meat thrown against the gallery wall. Meat is just too expensive. Food has become a luxury item. I would love to do it and send you a video with the visuals for your Biennale in Lima, but without financial backing, it's simply not possible. And I don't think I'll find funding in Buenos Aires unless you know of some Peruvian art collector willing to cover the expenses. Let me know if you have anyone in mind. I do have another project idea that's much simpler and equally effective, but I'm curious what you think of it. My work would involve fire. The idea is to assemble a network of people in Lima and Buenos Aires and organize a mass burning of Nike sneakers in both cities on the same day. Everyone who wants to participate just has to wear their Nike sneakers on the same day and then set them ablaze in a huge bonfire in front of the obelisk in Buenos Aires and the Plaza de Armas in Peru. Or maybe in San Martin Plaza, since both cities have one. What do you think? I know it doesn't have the same plasticity as meat hard against the immaculate wall of a white cube. The meat would cause an explosion of color and a disgusting repulsive effect, which is what we both want. But burning sneakers is a much more intense work of art, no? Afterward, we could hand out sneakers from national brands to make a statement about Latin American unity and our country's commercial solidarity. Though I don't really care to get into the conceptual implications of the work. I'm only thinking of it in visual terms. The fire melting, all that synthetic rubber, the flames, the purple cloud of smoke. I don't know. Let the critics decide what it means. Anyway, I hope to hear back soon.
I love
It's
that
from,
one. Yeah.
This one is from the time of the crisis, from 2003. I wrote it when I came back from Berlin. And also in Berlin, there was a lot of talking about politics, about how do you say, new left, horizontal democracy. How do you say that in English? I don't know.
What was it? Social democracy?
No, Jacob, democracia horizontal. How is it in English?
I guess horizontal democracy.
Oh, great.
Well, no, I don't know. In Berlin, in the 2000s, when I was there, like there were still a lot of Belleza y Hoy, casas tomadas. People who live in houses that are from other people. How do you say it in English?
Like a tenement?
Squatters.
Oh,
Quarters, yeah.
There were a lot of squatters in 2000. I know Berlin has changed a lot now. So all these things, this atmosphere is from those times. Also in Argentina, there was this discussion about new politics. And that's why I say what happened in 2000, it was the crisis of neoliberalism order of the world still present today, even though I feel it's very old. But what happened there, all those problems and questions are still, in our contemporary time. I don't know.
You even see that playing out with the COVID immunizations that we were talking about, and the Pfizer reference that we had before, is nothing's really changed. I think that kind of comes back to a line that I think my favorite in the book was, what matters in art is not the what, but the how. Can you expand a little on that?
Yes, this I stole from Fernanda Laguna, my partner.
Great.
Because she has a lot of great ideas. this phrase, she always said that, but I think I put it there in this story because as a woman, also we, Nana and I, as poets, when we started, we were very young, and we were writing about topics that they say, oh, I don't care, like in the story, I don't care about your baby, I don't care about your love story, I don't care. So I think was kind of yes, this was a response to those ideas that there is a hierarchy. What do you say, Jacob? Hierarchy of topics. Maybe now in 2021, this is already more obvious. But when I was 20 and I wanted to be a poet, a writer, there was a hierarchy of topics to address as a poet. You know, you couldn't write like, yes, a makeup remover wasn't a topic for big literature or whatever, which is what is this story about. But I think this is already old. This is kind of a 20th century problem. Today is not like that anymore.
Oh, I don't agree at all. I mean, but I liked how the character was like 38 when this happened. This is like my age, basically. I love that you were thinking about stealing a Vichy makeup removal.
That's why I say no, I don't do that anymore. And also, I know I don't like the tone of criticizing this guy anymore. Now I'm not like that anymore. But I think sometimes they ask me, well, there is Brianna who is here from New York. She sent me some questions for an interview, and she said the difference between the self and the I don't remember, and the hi Brianna, the difference between the self and the, what else did you say?
I think it was the difference between the self and the voice, and which one.
And the voice, the difference between the self and the voice. And I was thinking, it's like a photo of one moment of the self that is always changing, mutating. So I was this angry person, mad at this German guy, but I don't defend this attitude. Yeah, I just wrote in this moment when I was really mad, but you know that.
Nice place to put your rage. Maybe that was the best place to put it. I was wondering if you would be open to seeing if anyone else had some questions in the audience. I actually don't know how to do that, but because I know you're also technologically challenged, so maybe Antonia could pop in and help us to do the questions. How does that work, Antonia?
Actually, people have been pretty good, like Jacob and Brianna. They know, like, you can actually just switch on.
People just can jump in.
Microphone, but otherwise you can write it in the little chat room, which is like on the lower west.
Right.
Yeah, right. On the lower right side of the so that there you can put a question, or you can, I don't know, raise your hand or activate your microphone, because I like it. I like this chat room tonight. It's pretty.
No, it's really lovely.
Chill. It's the first time I do it in like a reunion, and it's not like a conference setting. It's more like a meeting.
Okay, so you can see
the meeting tonight. So actually, Brianna and Jacob, they noticed that they can just activate their own microphone. But otherwise, yeah, you can write questions down there.
Well, if anyone has a question, you could open it now.
And me, I was just rereading the index, like the contents. And I love the index so much. I think you, Cecilia, I don't know, like, actually, I should have done this. I should have looked up the original titles, because now I only have the English version, of course, but I think they're so amazing. And to me, like, I was thinking about this, like this morning when I woke up very early and I started reading the book again. And I thought, those are great titles for dreams. You know, when you wake up and you remember your dream and you really want to write it down, but then you don't have paper or something, but then something sticks. And I just think they're great. Like, as well, I mean, the stories, they feel to me Are some of the stories inspired by dreams by any chance, or not at all?
There is one called Dreams Have No Copyright. And that title is inspired by a dream, because I had a dream and I told a friend to put that piece in a show. And then I was thinking, but he's stealing my idea. But then I thought, no, I told him a dream and he put it in a show. Well, I don't know, but that is not in the story. Just the title. And then I said, well, but no, it was a dream. It's not my idea. Okay, I told him, because I told him I had the dream in your show. You had this piece, and yeah. But at the end, yes, who's the copyright of the dream? The one who dreamt it, or I don't know. Yes.
Yeah, but
Ceci, what's the story? Sorry, Ceci, what's the story with the Medusa game? Isn't that a dream?
Which
with the
one?
game with the Medusa and the forest, like you know what I'm talking about?
No, Medusa, no.
Where you're obsessed with an online game where you go to this escapist world and
No.
I gotta find it. But types of plastic also has a great dream.
Type of plastic.
Yeah.
That's a different one, but I'm gonna look for the one I'm thinking of. I just can't remember.
That one is that all the plastics melt down and everything starts being petrol again. No, I didn't dream it. I think it's my obsession with plastic.
Can I read the types of plastic? Just the poem, not the whole thing?
Okay.
Sorry, I really love this. This was one of my early morning readings. So in the middle of a text, she just decides that she has to go outside in the middle of the day on a Sunday in January. And she goes to the corner of two streets. And she stands up and she starts screaming her poem. And her poem goes like, 1. Polyethylene terephthalate. 2. High density polyethylene. 3. Polyvinyl chloride. 4. Low density polyethylene. 5. Polypropylene. 6. Polystyrene. Types of plastic. Types of plastic. And then start again. I really love this one. They're crazy.
Ceci,
all your titles. Yeah.
I found Swedenborg versus Kant.
Swedenborg versus Kant. Losing weight. Flourishing pitch. 2. Unlimited budget. That's very good. Jeans. Every bag I've ever owned. A bottle of Vichy makeup remover I stole from a poet in Berlin. Easily amused, which makes me think of Nirvana, of course. Right? No?
Yes, it's a quote of Nirvana of Kurt Cobain's song, yes, Sicilian.
I really like I Want to Be Fat. I love.
Oh, you liked that one?
I Want to Be Fat. And then Nuns, the Utopia of a World Without Man. And then, I don't know, everything. Do it yourself. What is a poem? Freestyle rap. 2 stories about downtown Buenos Aires. Little jive. Was this book? How was the book called in its original version?
Actually, this book exists like that only in English because it's 3 different collections in Spanish who are very, very thin.
Okay, so it's coming together.
So I wrote 3 short stories collections in 20 years. And about the titles, what you were saying, I love titles, and maybe it has to do with that I started writing poetry, or the most I write in my life is poems, and poems is like really like you have to think about the line, and the title for me is very important in a poem. I don't know, and I agree. I think titles are better than the stories. No, I know you do. No, I like more sometimes I think everything is written just to get to a title. Like this, the makeup remover I stole from a poet in Berlin. I really, in this case, I think everything is to go to this line.
Oh, you're like, fuck, I have such a great title, now I need to write something.
Yes.
Just to
Yes.
exist. Mhm.
Yes. Totally.
Talking
I-
about another great title, I was just realizing that the cover of the book is
Julie
from
Becker.
a very mysterious artist that I would love to know more about, that I never really researched. But I have a friend who's kind of obsessed by her. So I just noticed it's her. It's Julie Becker. Did you know about her, Estelle?
Actually, Chris Kraus, the editor, she chose the work and the artist, and I know not so much about her. I know what Chris has written because I translated Chris Kraus many Chris Kraus books, and I know what she's written about her, and I found her a really interesting artist from LA who died very young, unfortunately. Maybe Estelle, you know her, Julie Becker.
I don't know her personally, but I know that Sabrina Tarasov's writing a great essay on her at the moment. I'm not sure when that's due to come out, but yeah, she does some incredible work, and that was the first thing I noticed about the cover. So you didn't speak to Julie Becker about the image, or Chris just took care of that?
She's not with us anymore. She passed away, the artist.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes, Chris.
She was one with a great title, because I think one of her most well-known works as a great title that we can kind of relate to your text as well, which is I must create a masterpiece to pay the rent. So it kind of loops to your first question, Estelle, about misdistribution. Well,
yeah,
anyway, it was just a parenthesis.
I mean, so much of the work is pivots on that. It's just, have you read the whole work, Antonia? Have you had a chance to read the whole book?
Of course. What are you doing? I'm a very bad liar. I am such a bad liar. I actually, what I like about this book is that I just open it at random.
Yeah.
So maybe I've read it all. Maybe, I don't know, actually. Maybe I've read it all, because I opened it at random so many times to read one story. So maybe I actually did. I don't know. But that's what I like about this, like this kind of dream, how do you say, element in it, that it just comes to me in flashes, and I really love that. Like, it's actually not a book that I wanted to read from cover to cover. I just wanted to like go like this and like get to the beginning of the chapter at least, and then just read it.
But it's also kind of, have you noticed how the, Cecilia, your endings are impeccable. Like, I don't know how you do it. I never really have any narratives, but yours are always really solid, calm narratives. What's your methodology? Do you sit down on a crummy table, as in crumb-filled table, and just write? Like, how do you get to those endings? Because they're perfect, those last lines.
Actually, I always have more like the title. I think a lot about the title, and then yes, I don't know. It's like how do you say it in? Lo puedes, Jacob, can you translate? I'll say in Spanish. Es como sumar, como ir sumando como una intensidad emocional. Al final es como la síntesis de una intensidad, algo así, ¿se entiende? No sé.
Yes. So it's just like a constant emotional buildup, or a buildup of emotions, and then ¿cuál fue la parte del final?
Como que el final es como esa intensidad emocional que, no sé, la que culmina, no sé.
It's just a buildup of emotional intensity, and then it just it culminates and kind of reaches a peak for her.
Like an orgasm, like a petit mort, a little death.
Yes, maybe like that. Yes,
yeah.
I don't know. Now we were talking at the beginning before we started that it has been difficult for me to write in this year of virus, because for me it's so important to move around, to see spaces, places. So that's why when you ask me this and I say, how did I write it? I don't know. I remember like doing it by fragments, by pieces, by different moments, different moods, and then completing the story, like not like having a plan or sitting down, but in different moments, and now being all the time in the same state or mood. For me, it's difficult to write a story. Maybe I write more poems.
Because you even mentioned, I think, in the first story that there was a period of 2 years, or maybe that was the second, there was a period of 2 years where you hadn't written a story. And I feel like that's been the quarantine time, because there's no extrinsic stimulation. Everyone's so, I don't think I've written anything reasonable in years. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And you guys have it even worse because it's continuing.
Yeah, well, that in the story that was about being a mother. When I was a mother, well, you are in that moment, Estelle. When my son was little, I really didn't write a lot.
It's impossible. It's hard. It's really hard. But now that Felix is a bit older, I guess, like he kind of has shot off into his own political interest.
Yes, now it's easier. Now it's easier. But still, being a mother and a wife steals your time all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm happy. I'm happy because otherwise I would be in a mental institution if I didn't have a husband and a son. I told that to my husband today, and
that's where I am right now. But
he was very offended. He was very offended. I told him, I realized, and I told my son, who is 14 and he's a feminist, he can understand. No, because I was reading this book by Kate Sambrino.
Oh, yeah, Heroines. Oh my God, she's so good. Heroines?
Yes, Heroines.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was such a good book. And I was thinking, yes, I understand why I'm I'm a housewife, I'm a mother, because otherwise I would be in a mental health institution. I told that to my husband, but we're not married, boyfriend, and he was offended, but I don't care.
But you were saying that your life has become quite a bit more conservative from your more anarchist, youth, and your life has kind of done a bit of a 180. And I found that really interesting. So you're now the one wearing the blazer.
Yes. No. Well, this is the one with the blazer. Now I regret it. No, I don't wear blazer. I just wear a soft, how do you say, telas blandas. Jacob,
like soft fabrics, comfortable
soft
fabrics.
Yeah.
Soft fabric. Blazer is haute couture or whatever. No, it's hard fabric. No, I'm joking. Yes, having a child and being in a stable relationship makes you, yes, more like writing. I don't know what to write about now. Really, I had to invent conflict to write about.
Conflict.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy with my life. I'm really happy with my life. But
what a wonderful.
It's becoming like AA Anonymous.
What's that?
Like mothers Anonymous.
You're a mother too, Antonia.
Yeah. I happen to be a mother of two. But what I like about it is the amnesia. Like every month you forget what happened last month. So it seems like it's, like that's why we keep breeding, basically, because you forget about the bad things, right?
Yes.
That's what my mom told me. She always tells me, I don't remember anything about when you were a kid. If I would remember, probably there would be no more kids on Earth. So
yes,
that's another story. Anyway, we're not here to talk about kids. We're here to talk about breeding books, which is also pretty interesting activity that you do very well, both of you. Because I want to put this little one next to the other one, because I'm always
very soon I will translate some text by Estelle into Spanish. Soon I will publish it in an underground press I have. Yes, not in paper, in PDF, in digital format. But I'm really happy to have met Estelle thanks to this book. Well, and through Chris. That's what I think was the good part of the quarantine, like making more connections with people who are in other places, and yes, that's the only positive thing. So
And books make friends still, right?
yes, especially with this press, with Semiotext, with Chris Kraus, who is really a great friend and who is always making people meet each other, right, Estelle?
She's very good. She's like a social architect. She really knows how to piece the right people together. She's never, even Annette Weiser, I don't know if you've read her book by Semiotext. It's excellent. I think she's here tonight as well. But yeah, Chris is very good at bringing the right people together that might enjoy each other's company. And yeah, I was thrilled that she was able to connect me with you, not just for your work, which I obviously love, but it's been wonderful to get to know you as well and to kind of see so much of you in your texts.
Thank you. Here is also Mona, who is in Paris. Hi, Mona, who has maybe you can tell about my book in French that is coming this year. I don't know, maybe you can tell more about that.
Yeah, I'll say it quickly. And sorry about all the crazy noise outside. I think people are very, very excited about the reopening. So we're publishing a book of Cecilia in French, which is Licorice Candies, which is going to be titled Bonbon à l'anis. And I'm publishing it with a friend who has the publishing house Brooke, Rosanna Puyol, and it will come out probably in the fall. And we're very excited to have translated these stories in French and to be able to bring them to like strictly French speaking readers. So yeah. And Chris Kraus.
I was going to go to Paris.
Yes, we had a plan, and Cecilia was going to do some workshops.
You will come for the French version.
Yeah.
You will come.
Yes.
Come on.
I have the tickets. I don't know until when I will be able to use them because. So I hope I can go this year. I don't know for this, but I don't know.
For real. I mean, for real. We'll do a physical book launch soon.
And I also discovered your work in Chris Kraus's class, so she definitely helped make this possible too. So
actually, to give a shout out to Chris, the first books of Cecilia that we published in English before she had any like following or fame was just through a friend that had a small press called Scrambler, and he had the money to front the cost to print and publish. And then Chris came into the radar, and Chris started assigning those books as mandatory reading in classes at the European Graduate School. And it was a small independent press, so Cecilia and I were receiving, I think, 20% royalties each, pretty generous. And the book just sold out. A Hotel with My Name disappeared because we didn't have enough copies, and Chris kept assigning it in classes. And we got really, for independent publishing, Cecilia and I got several $100s in royalties from that book because of Chris.
Wow. And now it's $400 in eBay, right, Jacob? That book.
Yeah. It's so hard to find. I assume this is just algorithms that I don't know. It enrages me actually, because I think if anybody wants it, I'll send them a PDF for free. We're going to republish it this year, but the few used copies you can find now online cost like $700, $800 because they're just so rare. And in fact, very, very bizarrely, last week a used copy went up for sale somewhere for like $8 in Seattle, and I bought it right away. So because I was like, how, like, no. An afterthought. An afterthought was maybe I should have left it, and it would have driven the prices of the other copies down or something. But I said better for me to buy it while it's at a cheap price and give it to somebody that actually wants it. Then It's so absurd to me that these books cost $800.
Yeah.
Have you seen that when rare books that aren't necessarily that rare, but just the algorithms jack the prices up on these used bookstores?
for us being a bookstore, but that's all, I mean, that's another topic, but for us, the bookstore, it happens all the time that people just buy online the last copy of something, and then they just try to resell it like the next day. So we kind of spot, like now we know when it happens, so we just block it. But that's all done. Anyways, hey, thank you so much, everybody. That was really lovely having you all
So
here.
nice. It was really lovely.
Thank you for being there, all of you, and well.
Cecilia, you'll come to Paris soon, right? Come
yes,
up.
I hope this year. Yes, but let's see. I don't know.
I hope that some French teachers also decide to assign your book in French school. Not just for the price, but
work on it. We'll work on it together, Mona, okay?
yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Estelle.
Okay, gracias.
Thank you for having us. Good to see you, Cecilia.
Ciao.
See you all
See
soon.
you.
Good reading, everybody. Keep reading. Keep reading. Buy this from your local bookstore or from us, but not necessarily. Like the closest you can find, the better. And thank you, everybody. See you soon, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you.